alive! It's alive! It's alive!
I want to play a game.
Hello and welcome to the Sounds from the Grave podcast, a podcast that talks all things horror and horror related. My name is Yussef.
And my name is Vania.
And Klaatu, Barada...
Necktie?
something with an N. I think it starts with an N.
It's definitely with an N. So if you guys haven't figured from our little quote of the day, we were talking about Army of Darkness. Or Ash versus Army of Darkness, whichever of the working titles that you know it by, which is continuing our Evil Dead franchise. So we are going to do the same thing, rundown of the movie, and also give you our grave robbing facts. But beforehand, I feel like we should talk about a few things. So what kind of things do we have to mention, Yussef?
Yes, so I have two things, and then you had the one thing. So the one thing that I have is the amazing, lovely Danny DeVito has been officially cast in the live-action Haunted Mansion movie, and I could not be happier.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting way of casting for Haunted Mansion. But I feel like a remake for Haunted Mansion is long overdue, and we do definitely need it.
Oh yeah, and apparently Jungle Cruise did pretty well with both making money and with the critics, so I think that's a good sign. They're like, okay, maybe we should try again with these types of stories based on the attractions and that kind of stuff. Yeah, so in the movie itself, we already know that it's going to star Lakeith Stanfield, Tiffany Haddish, Taraji P. Henson, and now we know that he's going to be in the cast as well, and that he's going to be playing some sort of professor. So I think that's very, very cool. I like how a bunch of people on Twitter were like, oh my god, he's going to be the hitchhiking ghost.
She was. That would have been interesting.
And me being me, and I sent this to Kyle from the Trick or Treaters podcast when I sent him the article about the casting news. We're both big fans of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and he's in the show. And we're like, is he going to be banging dirty ghost whores?
Oh my gosh! Stop.
So we
How
thought that was pretty funny.
Kyle even know about it? Because I mean, has he ever been to Disney? Does he know Haunted Mansion? Besides,
I don't know, but I just thought it would be funny to send him that.
Kyle, do you?
Because I've been binging It's Always Sunny recently. We've been talking about watching the show itself for a couple of days now because we think it's hilarious. So the fact that just came up as we were talking about the show was really funny. So that's why we just kind of went up with that.
Okay.
Yeah. But the other big news we have has been kind of dividing up the horror community a little bit, and that is the picture that came out where Rob Zombie revealed the main cast for his new movie, The Munsters. So it reveals Jeff Daniel Phillips as God damn it, I am blanking on names.
Is it Eddie? No, Eddie is the child.
Eddie is the child, yeah. I don't remember. Herman Munster. Jesus. Yeah. And then Sherry Moon Zombie as Lily Munster and Daniel Roebuck as Grandpa Munster. And so many people that I saw on Twitter that were big into horror, they were either very, very happy with the casting or very, very angry with the casting. Particularly about Sherry Moon Zombie. Because a lot of people were like, oh, she doesn't fit the character. She's got to stop being in all the Rob Zombie movies. It's getting old. It's getting annoying. And a bunch of people were the other half of that, where I'm included as well. Like I said, I'm definitely on that other spectrum of it. We're just like, dude, this is really good news. It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch her play Lily Munster. She's really gonna kind of bring her own take on it.
Yeah.
And not only that, I personally love the fact that Rob Zombie puts her in every single one of his movies. Because we were kind of talking about that earlier, where they love each other and trust each other so much that they're just let's just work on this together.
Yeah, I think that's the cutest thing ever. And I wish that Tim Burton and Helena had done the same. I mean, they are doing the same, but they're platonic friends rather than lovers. But
Yeah.
of course, Rob Zombie and Sherry Moon are super cute, and the fact that they're like, you know, they work on these productions together, hence it makes it work. And I really like Sherry Moon.
Yeah. And not only that too, like just the fact that they're both just goals. Because like,
Yeah,
especially like as a filmmaker, you know, we're like they're goals. It's like it's
yeah,
fun to like be a filmmaker and also get to work with your significant other in these types of productions.
yeah. That's so cute. I
Yeah.
love them both.
So yeah, that's really the two big things that I had. But I know you have something else, and I would love to hear what it is.
So, if you guys have not been keeping up in the drag community, if you guys are big fans of just drag queens or like RuPaul or Dragula, like on Shudder, it is October 19th today. The first episode of the Boulet Brothers Dragula season 4 has aired today. They will be uploading new episodes every Tuesday. And they started up with their new season with the whole new cast of monsters, of course, besides Saint. But the theme for the first episode is actually based on doing classic horror icons, but reimagined. So they have to kind of like do their own spin on a classic horror icon that they're known for. In the horror genre, it can be video games, movies, um, animated television, whatever they choose to do. So that was the first episode. I did watch it, but I'm not going to spoil it at all for you guys. I wanted to check it out for yourself. The Shutter is $4.99 if you guys can afford it. But yeah, that new season for spooky season of Dragula is back.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to give that a look. See, I haven't seen any of the drag shows just because like I don't have the time, and plus I'm
Yeah,
always like wanting to watch something else too.
yeah.
But this one is just like just starting. It gives me like a good entry point to get into it, so I'll definitely give it a try.
Yeah, I mean, they start out with different people, so just bear with it if you do end up getting really into the competition. The older seasons are kind of like crappy production quality,
Mm,
but this newer season, you can tell that they've gotten a lot more on their budget. But it's just the creativity of the drag queens is what matters, and the fact that they kind of represent the less glamorized version of horror, if you would like to
mm,
call it.
okay, interesting.
It's kind of like the elements of horror, filth, glamour, and like I forgot the other ones. I'm so sorry. But yeah, just keeping it. Yeah, yeah, filth, glamour, horror. Yeah, I'll think about it later. But yeah, Dracula's back, season
Cool,
4.
definitely. So I did want to mention one other thing before we deep dive into Army of Darkness. This past Friday, Ice Nine Kills released their new album, Silver Scream Part 2, Welcome to Horrorwood. And it's a fucking amazing album.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I'm
only
addicted.
see the Pet Cemetery music video, but I haven't checked out the rest of the album yet.
Yeah, I am obsessed with this album. Like, I have straight up listened to this at least 12 or 13 times now. Like,
Damn.
it's that good. And I don't listen to music that much, like, on repeat, but, like, this album's, like, something special, though. It's got so much fun in it. Like, you can tell that these guys were having a blast making these, and they're, like, really straight up passionate about horror. And I like the way that it's, like, propelling the story of the serial killer that they've got going on since the last Silver Screen album.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Oh
I have
yeah.
to definitely get into that.
Yeah, it's a great album. But yeah, I just wanted to gush over it just because I'm straight up obsessed with it right now.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we've reached our point there, and I think it is time to begin our deep dive into Army of Darkness.
Yeah, now where do we start with Army of Darkness? So the movie does begin with Ash being carried as a prisoner with a voiceover, kind of like recapping of what happened in the last movie. And then Ash talks about his life, and we learn more about his job, Shop Smart. as smart. It was very cringy. I mean,
Yes.
you could tell that it was like one of those dialogues like you doing commercials, but he doesn't realize he's in it. So it brings up to speed with what happened again. But as soon as he lands on 1300 AD, he is taken prisoner by the knights.
Which
But
I don't like how they do that, because in the last at the end of Evil Dead 2, when he kills a Deadite, they're all cheering for him, but like this movie starts with them taking him prisoner.
yeah, I heard that they just wanted to have a different take
Yeah.
on this.
I think
Like
it was,
you know,
yeah, I think it might have been something to do with like how they wanted to start the story.
yeah, that's fair. But even before that, like, can we talk about how they keep changing Linda? Like, stop, leave her
This is,
alone.
yeah, that is straight up the third actress we've had as Linda now.
Yeah, just I don't know. Every time I was like, really again, like, can we stop that shit? But it's fine.
And
Um,
not and I do like too the fact that we get a little bit more background on Ash's character. So like, because before that, all we knew is that he was just a college student. Like, we knew nothing else. But like now we know that he had a job, he had his girl, and everything like that. I love the fact that he was just some dude at like a convenience, like, like a Walmart type store. And he
yeah,
was just like, he's just a normal dude. Like, there's literally nothing special about Ash before what happens in the cabin.
yeah. It seems like it's more about like it's taking more of a comedic approach rather than a horror approach in the beginning. I
Yeah,
see.
oh yeah, definitely. This is by far like the most comedic Evil Dead movie.
Yeah.
But after he lands in 1300 AD and is taken prisoner by the knights, as they're walking along back to a castle, there's a wise man in the group, and he says that Ash might be the hero in the prophecy that is inside the Necronomicon. So that's important, because
Or have we seen that before?
literally every type of hero story ever. Because, like, that's
Yeah.
Star Wars, Harry Potter, The Matrix, to name just three of them.
You're gonna defeat the Necronomicon, Ash.
You're the hero of the prophecy.
No, I was trying to say it like you're a wizard, Harry, but that didn't work out.
You're a hero, Ash. But after that, Ash is then taken to the castle by none other than King Arthur. Which I love. I love that they're like, alright, we're gonna go full medieval with this.
Yeah, I felt like I was watching a horror version of Monty Python gone
That's what,
wrong.
right? That's
Honestly.
what it feels like sometimes. This movie, that's like the perfect way to describe it. It's like Three Stooges meets Monty Python meets horror.
Essentially.
That is the blender pitch. But
But
I'm sorry, continue.
I don't know. So here we meet Sheila. She's kind of a cutie. I love her outfit and all that stuff. And we find out that her brother was killed. And yeah, Sheila kind of attacks Ash and thinking that he killed her brother. So she
And
automatically is throwing like fits and
which is
a
hilarious
rock.
because that's the exact same thing that Annie did in Evil Dead 2. Because like she thinks that Ash killed her family and just starts attacking him.
He's just not very lucky. He
Yeah.
just takes, like I'm telling you, Bruce Campbell rolls with all the punches.
Oh yeah. Not to mention that like when we mean attacks Ash, we don't mean like hits him or anything. We mean she throws rocks at him. Like straight up.
Yeah, and it's just the fact that this movie was shot is just makes everything all the more dramatic.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it seem serious at all.
Yeah, this is really where we get to see like a different version of Ash. Kind of like the version that's like the most popular now.
Yeah.
But after, he gets pelted by rocks, not just from Sheila, but from the other villagers or like the other people living in the castle, he is taken to this huge pit, and he meets King Arthur's enemy, Henry the Red. And that's also when we see Ash as more of like the sassy hero, where he's like, I'm not one of your guys, like you assholes.
Like you tell him they're like, oh well, even if you did, they're not gonna have a really good time believing you. So good luck with that.
Yep.
So the pit is open, and one of Henry's men is thrown in, and then we don't hear a single sound until he screams, and a giant geyser of blood just comes from the pit, and they're just like
It is a
bleeding, but
literal.
they're cheering, and I'm like.
It's a literal geyser, like volcano eruption of blood. It's just like
What triggered to do that?
that's just Sam Raimi's like style thing. That's just what he loves to do.
Over exaggerate the situation. We love that.
Yeah. So obviously, the people, the prisoners are fucking terrified. You're like, oh shit, I ain't going in there. So one of the guys is able to break free and just starts to run away, but Arthur's like, nah, I bet you ain't going nowhere, and just shoots the man down with a crossbow.
Yeah, and the close up on this bow, I'm like, oh, awful.
Yeah.
It's not awful, but it's like so exaggerating. I'm like, why? You're so dramatic.
Like this like close up of like tracking the arrow as it goes through.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it makes it so much fun because like it's so different than just seeing Arthur just shoot a crossbow. Like it makes it more dynamic. It makes it like more interesting to watch. So I appreciate that he does those types of things.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So then Sheila's like, watch this, grabs another rock, just throws it at Ash. So that, that kind of hits Ash in a certain way, and he kind of like gets rocked and just falls into the pit.
Sheila sure rocked his shit. Haha, didn't.
Yeah.
And of course, at the bottom of the pit, we find out what's in the pit, which is a deadite.
Yup.
So, just Ash's luck,
Of course.
as always.
Perfectly what happens with Ash.
It surely matches his look. So,
definitely.
Then this deadite attacks Ash, and the crowd just kind of watches on, and there's like a really hilarious like fight scene between both of them where he's like, and she's like, just the way the deadite walks is like super hilarious, and the way like she like crawls on him and he's like trying to shake her off, and also the fact that he pins her against the wall, the little spiked wall.
Yeah. And not only that, there's like this. The fight scene is just the most ridiculous thing because you have this Deadeye doing like a bunch of flips all over the place, like a Matrix character.
Yeah,
it's like the most ridiculous thing because you're like, what the fuck is happening with this Deadeye? Like, what did she eat? It was that guy that she ate. She's like, whoo, I'm all hopped up now.
Caffeine.
Let me do some.
That was 5-hour energy.
So apparently Arthur thinks he's like Jabba the Hutt because like out of nowhere the spikes that were on the side of the walls just begin to close in, just like in Star Wars with the garbage compactor.
Oh my gosh.
And sensing that this man is different, the wise old man from earlier shows up and he's like, Ash, catch, and just throws the chainsaw down, and Ash like does his hero shot where he just sort of jumps and just catches it with like his little nub. And immediately, we get our hero shot, and he's just like, we're good.
Yeah, like I'm just gonna fight through my life now.
Yeah. So after he gets the chainsaw, Ash decapitates the first Deadite, but then lo and behold, a second one just pops up out of the water out of nowhere.
And goes the weasel.
Pop goes the Deadite. And we get some more ridiculousness because Ash is able to chop off this Deadite's hand, and it just flies up and just lands on some dude's face for no reason.
Oh my gosh. Gross.
And at this point, they throw a chain down for him, or he like grabs onto this chain, is trying to pull himself up, but the Deadeye grabs onto him, won't let him go. He's like kicking constantly at it until he's finally able to get free, and finally pulls himself out of the pit.
Yeah. He is all victorious, but now he feels extra mad and extra sassy that he just goes in front of everybody. And yeah, I think it's this the part that I think this is the point. Ash pulls out of the pit, tells Arthur that his shoe is untied, which makes me think. I mean, I kind of it like how did they know about shoes being untied? Like I was like, I know they had shoelaces back then, but like what would that mean to them? Like I feel like that's too modern term for them to understand.
Oh, it's definitely an anachronism, but it's like the funniest anachronism. Because it's like such a bully move to do, like a high school bully thing. It's like, oh, hey, your shoe's untied.
Yeah. But then he challenges the crowd, shows them the boomstick.
Yeah.
Then he tells
But
them all about the retail and shopping smart, and if anybody messes, he's just gonna Glock someone in the ass, and
Yeah.
then
I do like that when he's like challenging the crowd, he just points at this one bald guy and he's just like, you. I'm coming after you specifically. And this poor guy's just like, what the hell did I do? Like out of all the people, he just goes after this one guy. But yeah, I do like the fact that he pulls out his boomstick. Crowd gets all like well, first Arthur pulls out a sword on him, so then he pulls out his boomstick and shoots it off. And everybody's like, what the fuck? And he's like, this is my boomstick.
It retails for $109.99. Hold.
Shop smart, shop S smart.
You got that? Everybody's like, yes, yeah. It's like are supposed to understand what he actually means.
Yeah, like he knows what they know what he's talking about. So then the Deadite shows up out of the pit, just pops out, and Ash is like, nah, you're done, fam. Shoots this, this Deadite, and it just flips over and then falls back down into the pit.
Yeah.
Which
is weird because it's like, don't they die by this, like...
Right? I was just about to say that. I'm like, apparently this is like a different type of Deadite or something. I don't know, but like, apparently these don't have to die by dismemberment. Like, they just die by being shot at.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
inconsistency is for the sake of comedy.
Yeah. And of course, now we see that, he's the same action like hero type badass that we saw at the end of Evil Dead 2. And the people have like a newfound respect for him, so they clean him up, they feed him. So it's like a bunch of people that just start feeding him, like grapes and such. And now Ash is like full on asshole at this point, and he's almost like a Han Solo type character.
First you wanted to kill me, now you want to kiss me. What a dick.
But kind of a lovable dick.
Yeah,
a little bit. But at this point, he's just like, I know, like, because they're all like, hey, you gotta help us. We've all been attacked by all these Deadites. Like, we're not safe. And he's like, fuck that shit. Just send me back home.
Yeah, and he's possibly like not having it, and
he really isn't.
Yeah. And then he's like, well, a woman, just as Ash's luck, a woman just randomly turns into a Deadite.
Yes.
And says, you will never get the Necronomicon. And then it just starts getting possessed, more Evil Dead references, like referencing back to the movies, and it's also like the fight scene is very exaggerated, possessed, that kind of thing. And then Ash, at this point, he's like kind of like a trained professional because he's been through this shit so many times that he fights the Deadite and kills it with ease as if he's done this in his sleep before.
Yeah. There is one thing I don't particularly love, though. It's just like some of the camera work. Like, I don't like shaky cam stuff. And like this, a lot of the action scenes in the movie are straight up shaky cam sometimes. Especially at the beginning, because they get better towards the end. But like the first two at the beginning, so like the Deadeye popping out of the pit and getting shot at, it's just literally the camera just like shoots to the side a little bit. And I'm like, oh, whoa, that was too jerky. And then it's the same thing with this, where the camera just shakes all over the place.
You know what it reminds me of? Reminds me of the very dramatic scenes in like Power Rangers.
Yeah, it has a like kind of campy vibe to it for sure. Especially with like all the weird flips that everybody's like doing and stuff.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that, yeah.
Team Rocket's blasting off again, all the 90s.
But now Ash is like, all right, fine. I'm the one who has to get to the Necronomicon, so let's do this, but let's do this right. So they go back to his car, they they open the trunk and pull out a textbook and some other stuff. And so we have this like awesome montage that like Sam Raimi's amazing at, where like they zoom in on like random little things. And they build Ash this like badass new metallic hand that is like super strong. And of course, what does he say when he gets his new hand? Groovy.
Groovy.
And now, right after this, Ash and Sheila have this little conversation where, of course, he pretends to be a genius of some sort, even though he isn't.
He a dumbass.
Yeah, and then she's like, "Oh, hey, you know, like I brought you a robe, like here, like kind of like say I'm sorry." And he says some ridiculous remark that gets her frustrated. She slaps him, and then they just kiss. It's like the most like 30s or 40s action hero thing to do.
Yeah. But you know, we love a love in denial and, you know, just randomly slapping their other significant other. We love that.
Yeah, it's very much like, you pig.
Kiss me, you fool. Like, oh my god, okay. Jesus Christ. Damn, I don't order in love, but damn, shit is weird. But after that, Ash is led to a graveyard where the Necronomicon is hidden. And then he is told the spell he needs, and then their old man tells him how to say it a couple of times. He's like, damn, okay, I get it. Like, I know the words, blah, 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 blah. Which is the Klaatu Barada Nikto. He had to say it like 3 times, but, you know, just because he wants to be a smartass, it doesn't get into his system.
Yep.
So, he's a piece of shit. But then, after that, Ash goes down the path to the cemetery, and then the evil chases him, and as we see in many of the movies where, you know, he just can't escape, and it keeps following him, and he's hitting shit, and he hits a tree and loses his horse. So, very 90s. And well, like, we don't lose horses. We just lose them inside of quicksand. No, I'm sorry. That was Never Ending Story. Wrong movie.
Stop. Don't do this to me.
That's how I will never watch Never Ending Story. I still haven't seen that movie.
I saw it once when I was a kid.
Me.
I saw it once when I was a kid. I was like, I don't think I'd ever watch this again. I do like the song.
I like the movie. Yeah, I like the song. I just think that movie's a little too dark for me. Like, but we all watch horror films, make it make sense, right?
Right.
So, after he loses his horse, the evil continues to pursue him until he makes it to the windmill, and the evil tries to fight its way in. So it's like trying to do like the scene in whatchamacallit, in Beauty and the Beast, kill the beast, like right into like, Ash's towards the door, and just as if it was lodging at him, but and then Ash is just trying to cover his ass, and
exactly.
Not really. Did the evil go away? I forgot.
It kind of like dissipates for a second, but it kind of does a similar thing to what it did in Evil Dead 2, where it just starts to mess with his mind a little bit. So it kind of like shows him this mirror with like weird stuff going on. So he just runs up to it and breaks it, and it just creates miniature ashes, like little miniature evil ashes. It's very much like Gulliver's Travels, where like it's like all these little people that just attack what they think is a giant when it's just a normal sized human.
Yeah, it's funny because I just feel like they had way too much fun and the budget for that particular thing.
Because like the
But you
little
can
fight
also
scene.
see the green screen though. You can see
Oh
like it's
yeah.
like layered over too,
Granted,
which
this is
is
like
funny to me.
granted this is the early '90s, so like this stuff was like still kind of like in its infancy. So like I get it.
Yeah,
But the little fight scene that they have,
yeah,
it's just the craziest thing. Like you got like Ash literally throwing like little forks at the miniature versions of him, and like they like grab onto him and like start like pulling at like his nose and that kind of stuff.
yeah. It's
Until
almost like very straight out of Looney Tunes.
oh, very much so.
Then like Ash is like also for some reason starts singing like London Bridge is falling down. I was like, oh
Oh yeah,
god.
yes.
Oh,
Again,
this thing
very
is
cartoony because like he's going after this
my
one
fair lady. Hey.
like this one little miniature Ash. He's like London Bridge is falling down, falling down, and of course, the miniature Ash takes advantage of that, grabs a nail on the ground, and just has him stab himself in the foot with it,
Yeah.
which then makes him jump back, hit something, and then knock himself out.
Then the other tiny one's my fair lady. Hey. Like they take advantage of just finishing the song. So stupid. But then we see that Ash is knocked down. He wakes up. He is tied down by the mini versions of himself. One of them goes into his mouth and he swallows it. Like they kind of hold together
They
his
like
little
two of them.
nose to make him try to breathe. Yeah.
I
You can
love
see
that.
how uncentered that part is, too. I was like, oh my
I
god.
know, but I love the fact that like it takes two of them to hold his nose down. So like
Yeah.
one of them pushes one nostril, the other one pushes the other, and they're just like hold it on.
Yeah.
I will say this: those miniature Ashes do know how to work as a team. Like they are a well coordinated, well oiled machine. They're SEAL Team Ash.
Going against himself. We love that.
But after he swallows the mini Ash, he tries to throw it up, but the mini Ash just refuses to do that, and it just attacks him from the inside. So,
Yeah.
oh my god. So then Ash is like, all right, you know what? I got this. And he just grabs boiling water and just starts swallowing it. And you can hear like the mini Ash screaming. He's like, yeah, you like that? You like that?
Yeah, like yeah. How about some hot chocolate? Huh? I was like, oh, why is that hot chocolate? That's water. So then Ash starts freaking out. He starts getting like an eye on his shoulder, and then
Yes.
it turns out that another part of him is growing on the other side of his body, and then they fight each other. Like until the point that they separate.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
But they straight up fight Three Stooges style.
Yeah.
It's in like the weirdest ways.
So when they separate, they now there's like two Ashes, and then there's good Ash and bad Ash, and it's like you're good at, and I'm bad Ash. It's like
I
oh my
love it. Yeah, I
god,
love how he does it with like the
uh,
little pinky like near his mouth. And
uh,
I'm bad Ash.
yeah, you're a goody two shoes, you're a goody two, and then starts punching him around, and I'm like, oh my god, like Ash cannot take a break. So obviously the other Ash is like getting annoyed, and we see him like I think he put the shotgun to his face.
Yeah.
Then he's like a good, bad. I'm the
I'm
guy
the
with
guy
the
with the
gun.
gun. And then he just shoots him in the
Yeah,
face.
yeah. Oh, but my trypophobia like acted up so bad because of all the holes in his face. Ooh, that shit
Oh.
cut me up, my guy. It was
Yeah.
bad.
I do like that buckshot just like is buckshot. There's like miniature bullets all over the place.
Yeah, it was awful, but
Oh
it was
yeah.
good though. I liked it.
Yeah, the creature effect
Um,
is really cool. So yeah, he's like, all right, let's. He takes the body back to the windmill, chains him up, and then cuts him to pieces off screen, and then buries the body in like pieces right outside the windmill.
the only dismemberment that I feel like we've ever seen in this entire movie.
Yeah, but then Badass is still alive at this point, and like as he's burying him, he taunts him again. He's like, "Oh, you're never gonna get the Necronomicon." But then Ash is like, "Fuck you!" Just keeps burying him, and just rides
Yeah.
on. And for some reason, his horse comes back, and then he just rides back onto the cemetery.
Yeah, the horse is like, I detect my rider's in trouble. Let me just, let's go. So weird. But then, in his little journey to the cemetery, he's able to grab the Necronomicon, but there are 3 different ones, and he must choose the right one. So he's like, nobody told me anything about 3 books. So the first book he opens is a wormhole that sucks him in, and he fights his way and become very cartoon face. It's very long, and he's constantly like shaking it to like make it go back to normal. His head spinning, that kind of thing. So then when he finally goes back to normal, he's like, okay, maybe not that one. He grabs the second book, but that one bites him and flies around attacking him. But then before he grabs the third book, he must recite the spell, but he forgets the goddamn words.
Like, he knows the first 2. He's like, Klaatu, Barada, and then he's like, oh shit.
Necktie, nectar, like, oh, like.
It was something with an N word.
With an N word, and I was like, nickel.
I love too the like, while he's just standing in the cemetery by himself, he just like looks around to see if nobody like is watching him before he decides to be like, Klaatu, Barada. There, I said it. The spell has been said.
Then grabs the book and everything just goes to shit. He plays it off, and so it makes things worse, and he wakes up. Army of Darkness.
Dun,
Deadites.
dun.
So he fucked up.
You done goofed.
Yeah.
So at this point, before we get into the big action stuff, it is time for us to take our little break and head on to our grave robbing facts.
See you there. Hey everybody, and welcome to our middle segment called Grave Robbing Facts, where we talk all the things that go behind the scenes in television, movies, the events that we are covering on each episode. And right now we keep covering stuff in the Evil Dead franchise. So we are going to give you 10 grave robbing facts on Army of Darkness.
Yeah. So our first grave robbing fact here, which is pretty cool, I think. In the original draft of the movie, Ash was actually supposed to lose an eye.
Oh, damn.
So he would have been like more of like, like a grizzled, like post-apocalyptic type hero, with like a chainsaw for a hand and an eye patch. So he would have been, like super Mad Max type thing.
Yeah.
That would have been
I think that would have been cool. So our second grave robbing fact is that the scene where Ash is being pelted with rocks, fake rocks were used, but to get a more realistic reaction out of Bruce Campbell, and partially as a prank, director Sam Raimi pelted him with potatoes. This cut was used.
I love that.
That's funny.
Like, that is such a testament to their friendship. He's like, I can imagine like him talking to the crew and be like, hey, by the way, guys, here's a bag of potatoes. Let's use these.
Yeah.
He'll never suspect a thing.
Funny. It's like it's gonna be a little painful, but he'll forgive me.
I just think that's pretty funny. Like it's such a fun little way to prank your actor. But our third grave robbing fact: the first Deadite that Ash fights in the pit was known as the Pit Bitch by the cast and crew. Like, I don't know why they just call it the Pit Bitch.
It's funny. I love that. I love that name. God,
so I think we should
have named it that. Hashtag Pit Bitch.
The Pit Bitch.
So, our fact number 4 is that the words that Ash has to say to get the Necronomicon and to get home later are very similar to the words that have been said to Gort the robot to make him stop in the day the Earth stood still in 1951.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. It was a nice little callback to those like 50s sci-fi movies. It is this pronouncing is a little bit different of the way it's written. So in the original Day the Earth Stood Still, I believe it was Klaatu Barada with a V.
Yeah.
Nikto, and then in Army of Darkness is Klaatu Barada with a B.
Ah,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah, but they did it, to like as to pay homage to the day the Earth stood still. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I need to watch that movie and then.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So our fifth grave robbing fact here: Ash screwing up the chant before taking the Book of the Dead was not the first time he tried to remember something someone told him. The previous one was during the dinner scene in Evil Dead, as he tries to quote something Scotty told him during their time as friends. Like when when he was gonna make that toast and he can't remember what the words were.
Yeah.
So like I love that it's like a little callback
that.
to what his character was like in the first Evil Dead. So I thought that was funny. Yeah, it's a pretty fun way to do it.
That's why, always remember where the roots came from for sure.
Oh yeah.
Our sixth grave robbing fact is that though there is a series trademark scene featuring an eruption of gallons of blood, this is the only film in the series that does not feature the main character being drenched in blood, and makes the previous film Evil Dead 2 the last time Bruce Campbell had to do an Evil Dead film where his character was the one to be soaked in blood.
So yeah, like that was interesting to me. I was at first I was like, oh, I kind of wish they would have just called him, just doused him in blood again. That's part of the fun.
Yeah.
At least like during the pit scene, like some of the blood could have like fallen on him or something, but it's all good.
He didn't want red boogies again.
Oh my god, I bet he was like, please Sam, like I can't take any more of this. Please don't do this to me again. Not again. But our seventh grave robbing facts, which actually I like. I really enjoy this fact. I kind of want to do this. But all three Evil Dead films can be seamlessly cut together, though some of the introductory footage in the sequels is lost. So, in other words, you would cut Evil Dead 1, everything in Evil Dead 2 after like the little intro scene with Linda, and then everything that happens in Evil Dead 3, except for like the voiceover stuff, can just be cut together into like one giant Evil Dead movie. And that would be so amazing to watch, just like the whole way through.
Yeah, I think so too. That would be great.
It'd be a good way to like see Ash's character evolve throughout the movie.
Without having to go through all the extra material that is already presented to us.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. So, our eighth fact is that it was released in Japan as Captain Supermarket. That's great.
Oh my god, they should have named it Captain Supermarket in the US. People would have been so confused by that. They're like, "Let's watch the new Evil Dead. Don't you mean Captain Supermarket?"
Yeah.
Oh my god. It's like the most like superhero name you could call Ash, Captain Supermarket.
The fact that it came afterwards makes it even better.
And like Shop Smart, Shop Smart would just be his catchphrase.
Oh yeah.
But our ninth grave robbing fact: one of the items visible in Ash's trunk is a copy of Dark Horse Presents' 5th Anniversary Special, originally published in April 1991. This comic includes the very first installment of Frank Miller's Sin City.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's a nice little comic book nod to people. I like that too. It's very fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And last but not least, our 10th fact is that the alternate ending, which Ash wakes up in a post-apocalyptic England, could have been the plot for a fourth film, which would have been Ash battling Deadites in a post-apocalyptic world. I would have paid to see that.
Right? That would have been, especially with like the whole thing about him losing an eye, that would have been even more cool. So like post-apocalypse Ash with the chainsaw for a hand, the eye patch, and just killing Deadites in like the destroyed ruins of England. Hell yeah. I want to see that.
I would love that. Me too. Too bad it didn't happen and we just got a remake, but
we'll get to the remake.
Yeah.
We'll get to the remake. But that was all of our grave-robbing facts for this episode of Army of Darkness. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming.
So, picking off where we left off, suddenly a ton of skeleton hands pop out of the ground and try to grab Ash in another Three Stooges scene, which is
like
the most comedic thing ever.
Yes, I love it. Like the fact that like some of them like grab at his nose and then like they try to poke his eye, but he like stops him, but then they like pull on his ears and stuff.
Yeah, it's so cute.
I love the one that just grabs his. I love the one that grabs his tongue.
Yeah.
And just like pulls on it.
You can tell that this scene was really fun for them. I'm pretty sure it took a lot of time, but
I bet
it's definitely really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely all practical effects too.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, after that happens, Ash takes the book and is able to escape the cemetery, but unfortunately, Bad Ash is reconstructed as a horrible creature.
Yes, and I love the makeup look for this, because he looks all gross and like nasty looking with like, and you still have like the giant like shotgun wound and stuff.
Yeah, it was a little hard to stare at this movie after a bit because of that nasty look, but you know,
it looks gnarly, and I love it.
So, as Ash makes it back to the castle and brings an Necronomicon back to the wise man, but, you know, then he's like, did you actually speak the words? He's like, yeah, they were similar, more or less, that kind of thing. And then he's really like, you've damned us all, so basically we just can't send you home. And then he's like, you know, why not? It's the same shit. Blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it was bad.
And then, of course, like he reveals that he's like, I don't care about your people. Like, just send me back to my own time. Like, fuck all y'all.
Damn.
And everybody kind of loses their trust in him, and they're all like, you know, like, damn, he was supposed to be our hero in the prophecy, and he's just an asshole. So everybody kind of loses their faith in him, except for Sheila. She's like, come on, you don't give up. Like, please, just help us fight. Like, you can be the hero that we need. You can be a hero. And at this point, a flying Deadite just appears and takes Sheila. And Ash is trying to save her, but the Deadite just escapes and flies off into the distance back to Bad Ash.
Yeah, this scene made me a little uncomfortable because the way that they have that scene with them alone. But we'll get to it when it gets there. So Ash tries to save Sheila, but the Deadite escapes with her. We cut back to Bad Ash as the other skeletons are digging up the rest of the army. And then Sheila meets Bad Ash and he kisses her, but like there's like other women in this little scene which they came out of nowhere. Yeah. And I'm like, what are they planning on doing with them? But you know, they didn't really do anything. The only one that kind of survived, I guess, is Sheila.
Yeah. Like I think like what it was, Bad Ash just like trying to set up like a harem of like Deadite women.
Yeah. Did not go as planned, apparently. Because I only saw Sheila, I didn't see other women.
Yeah. But then we cut back to our heroes, and Arthur learns about the army, and like him and his people debate leaving. But Ash tries to convince him. He tries to convince him first of all to work with Henry, but then he's able to. There at first that doesn't work, so he's like, "All right, then let's bring ourselves together. Let's fight this evil. Let's get rid of these people once and for all." And then we cut back to our villains again. So now we see that Sheila has been turned evil, almost like a Deadite, but also like a very smart version of the Deadite. Like it isn't just demon possessed; it's almost just like a corrupted version of Sheila.
She just reminded me of a Bride of Dracula, but she actually does something. Not trying to call Brides of Dracula out, but you know,
yeah.
But she looks really cool. She looks fucking like, you know, badass. You can tell like, you know, she's mean. She likes being bad, but she feels good. That kind of thing. Yeah. I love that. I love that energy coming from Sheila.
But now we have yet another montage. This time Ash showing the, kind of creating weapons for the upcoming war, the upcoming battle. and creating stuff like grenades, gunpowder, and that kind of stuff. And then a funny little scene that's ripped straight up Seven Samurai, where it's just like Ash and like a bunch of the villagers with sticks and just like doing this like fight choreography.
Yeah, kind of like Mulan almost too.
Yeah, it's literally
so cheesy.
It's literally Seven Samurai. Like that's all it is, and it's the funniest thing.
So during this time, the evil army approaches, and the skeletal music band for some odd reason.
Like the guys with the flutes and like the fife and drum.
Yeah, I was like, y'all is patriotic as hell, and y'all aren't even.
Which is hilarious too, because it always makes me think of this like one Dane Cook special from back in the day, where he talks about like those types of, like when you would see the paintings of like the Revolutionary War, there was always like these people with like the fife and drum, like playing the flute and playing the drum. And he was like, you can realize those people had like no weapon. So like, can you imagine these people walking out into a battlefield just like with like all these explosions around them?
Yeah, like I wonder if they had to keep playing like through all the massacres. At that point, I was like, oh damn, that's pretty brutal.
Like these guys were like, they were the actual bravest people in the Revolutionary War. Because they're like, we don't have weapons, but we have the power of music. And they're like, Reginald, give me a beat.
That's bad.
That's funny.
So the fight begins, and the army charges to the castle, and Arthur's men attack with flaming, exploding arrows, which Ash waits to the very last second, and I'm like, yo, he's gonna blow that guy's hand off. But he actually lets it go, and he survives it.
Which is which is so extra too, because it isn't just flaming arrows; it's flaming arrows that then explode when they hit.
Yeah, which is
like it could just be flame, but no, they also explode.
They had some ammo back in the day.
Yeah.
So a second wave of the battle kind of approaches. And the men attack with catapults and with flaming ammunition. They have an obsession with explosions.
Which again, apparently. It looks like something out of like a Vietnam War movie, with all these like skeleton people just flying around when they blow up and stuff.
They could have used the footage from Born on 4th of July. Just saying.
Oh my god.
Sorry, that was really dark. My bad. So,
but then part of the army, like part of the Army of Darkness, creates this bridge, and they begin to ram the castle gates. So they're
kill
like,
the beast. Kill the beast.
Stop.
Ash and his men defend the gates, and the evil start to use crossbows and begin to kill some of the men before breaking through the castle gates, because they really want that Necronomicon. They really want to raise all hell, and Ash is not making it easy for them.
Yeah, especially because they like burst in, they started like attacking people, but then Ash is like, "Don't worry, I got a surprise for these little fuckers," and just pulls up in his trusty car that's like filled with armor and like a bunch of just like metallic like spikes and all this kind of stuff. And he's just like, "Watch this."
I thought he was going to pull like a Back to the Future reference. I'm like, oh no, please don't. But, it didn't. But it was still pretty cool to see like a very like amped up car with all like those modifications on it, just ready to kick ass.
Yeah. And yeah, he just straight up like burst through this army. Like there's no stopping him. Except when Sheila shows up.
Stop me because I'm having a good time. Imagine like to the sky like a tiger. Yo, please
as he's killing the army.
Yeah.
Oh my god. But then at the last second, he does stop when he sees Sheila, swerves to like get out of the way, but then crashes the car and blows it up.
The girl was worth it, was it, Ash? The girl was worth it.
The Deadite woman.
The hot Deadite woman.
The hot Deadite woman.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
Deadite.
gosh.
And
I can imagine
the
now, like
army.
I can imagine like a possessed person being like, "Oh yeah," but then like with like the demonic voice in the background too, so it's like,
Yeah, I love that. Hashtag your deadite babe or deadite whore.
"Deadite
Pit
babe,
bitch deadite.
pit bitch deadite."
I love that. That's a new at now. I'm gonna take that at before pit bitch
Pit bitch
deadite.
deadite. I love that.
So the army begins to overtake the knights, and Sheila attacks Ash, but he is able to fight her off. So he's fighting evil Sheila, not just pretty Sheila.
Yeah, and then you
And
just when you
Haley calls her
think,
ugly too.
yeah, but then just when you think all hope is lost, they're gonna lose this fight. Here comes Henry the Red to the rescue. He arrives just in the nick of time and just starts, bashing into this army.
Hell yeah.
And it's really cool. I like it. It's almost like one of the fight scenes in Lord of the Rings when like you think these characters are gonna lose, but then comes Gandalf galloping in his white horse, and he's just like, "I got this."
Da, 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 da. Yeah. Yo, can you
But
imagine us covering a whole podcast on Lord of the Rings?
oh, that would be amazing. I would love that.
Dude, our podcast thing is gonna be like 3 hours long, right?
I mean, the Lord of the Rings movies are 3 hours long. What's wrong with that?
Our podcast will be 3 hours long.
Per movie.
Per movie.
Not 3 hours on all three. No, that's way too small amount of time for that.
We're a horror podcast, not
I know.
Tolkien or
Not a fantasy podcast. I know.
But as
But
cool as that might be, but then
yeah,
that we would already have too many tasks on our hands for sure.
yeah,
We have too many priorities, unfortunately.
yeah.
Anyway,
But
we're striving off of topic.
yeah, back into
But
action.
Bad Ash enters the fray and goes after the book. But then Ash goes after him, and then fights his way through a number of soldiers just to get to Bad Ash. And then Sheila attacks Ash again, and Bad Ash goes after the book again, because they're trying to get the Necronomicon, and it's like a constant, like on the edge of your seat, like who's actually going to get to it first.
Yeah.
But Ash manages to fight Bad Ash and another soldier at once. The two are evenly matched, but Ash is able to get the light Bad Ash on fire. So you see Bad Ash doing the dancey dance.
The dancey dance.
The dancey dance, like I'm on fire. Yeah,
he's doing fire dancing.
Fire dancing. Skilled. We love that. The sight of Ash that turns me on. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my god.
That's awful.
Hail to the king, baby.
Yeah.
But so I love how cartoony it gets at this point, because like obviously Bad Ash is set on fire, but when he comes back he's just a skeleton. He's like a stop motion skeleton with like really big eyes. It's the most ridiculous thing.
I was seeing a Tim Burton movie gone wrong, honestly.
But Bad Ash kicks the regular Ash down, and he grabs the book. And then jumps on a catapult. So, but Ash is able to take the book back and sends Bad Ash flying on the catapult, which then explodes. So,
off again.
Bad Ash is blasting off again.
Pokemans.
Pokemans.
Pokemans. So Ash is able to take the book back and sends Bad Ash flying. The army retreats, and the fact that the comments that they say is like, that's like, we're retreating, and then it's like something going to hell, like we're all going to hell, kind of thing. The comments, I'm like, yo, what's going on with these skeletons? Like, you're all right.
I'm just like, well, the fight's over. I guess we're going back to hell now.
Yeah. So, and also, what the good thing is that Sheila turns back to normal. So,
yeah, which I like.
Yeah.
I like that. It's like the nice little happy ending.
Mm-hmm.
But then, now that the fight is over, Henry and Arthur meet on the battlefield, And you think at first they're gonna fight again because they give each other like this look, and you're like, oh shit, now they're gonna fight each other. But then at the last second,
Yeah.
they're like, nah, we're good, we're friends now. Like they celebrate together and they bury the hatchet, and like everybody's happy again.
Yeah, and everybody's like kissing and hugging, and yeah, it's a good time.
And they're like, man, it's time to get drunk.
Oh
It's time to party like it's 1300 AD.
my god. So Ash is given a potion that he drinks it. It will send him back to his own time. He just shares a tender goodbye with Sheila before riding off and returning to his own time. You can kind of tell that, he didn't want to, but he knows that he didn't belong there.
Yeah.
So then we cut back where he's back in his own time telling this crazy story to his coworker, and he's like, yeah.
And of course the
You've
coworkers
been smoking some shit.
and of course the coworkers played by Ted Raimi, Sam's brother.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, which I love the fact that character's only on screen for like 5 seconds, and then he shows up in Ash vs. Evil Dead as well. Like people liked him so much they just put him in Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Oh, fair.
Yeah.
That's funny though.
Yeah. But this girl at the S Mart starts to flirt with Ash, but then out of nowhere this Deadite just appears out of nowhere, and Ash is like, I got this, don't worry. And he grabs a shotgun and just destroys his Deadite like it's no problem. Like, the easiest thing in the world. And then he grabs the girl and he's like, hail to the king, baby, as he kisses her, and the movie ends.
Yeah, that ending was super dramatic. I was like, that's very
Yeah.
Ash of him. So
Yeah. But that is just one ending. There is a second ending to this movie. This is the ending that was not in theaters. This is the ending that is it was an alternate ending. So, the ending when you rewatch it on like the DVD or the Blu-ray, it kind of cuts back to when Ash is being given the potion. It's a little bit of a different dialogue when they tell him, "Hey, every drop that you drink is 100 years. So you have to take 6 drops to make it back to your own time." Like specifically, because that'll get you exactly back to where you need to go. And then, of course, he has this little moment with Linda, and then we show him getting into his car and driving off into this cave that he then seals together, so nobody can get into the cave, and he can just sleep there for as long as he needs to. And he starts to take the potion. He gets through 5 drops when he hears something, and at first he thinks it might be like a deadite or something, but then he's like, okay, it's nothing, and then he does this. 5, 6. So he takes an extra drop that he didn't need to take.
oh shit.
So then he goes to sleep for 700 years instead of 600 years. And then when he wakes up, he's like, I finally made it home, civilization. But then he realizes he is now stranded in a post-apocalyptic England. And the movie ends with him screaming, saying, I slept for too long. I slept for too long.
Damn.
Which would have been our tease to the 4th Evil Dead movie if they were to make it.
Which I'm guessing they didn't.
No, they didn't do it. That's because now we have the show. We have Ash vs. Evil Dead, which also ends on kind of a cliffhanger because that show, I remember it ending like way into the future where like Ash is like in cryo sleep and they just bring him back like thousands of years later because they're like, hey, the Deadites are back, we need your help. And that's literally how that show ends, and I'm like, I want more.
Help us, Ash.
You're our
only. Yeah.
So that is Army of Darkness, the third movie in the first timeline, I guess, of the Evil Dead franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this movie's great. It's so funny. It's so much fun to watch with like all the adventure stuff. It's very much more of like an adventure action comedy movie than like a horror movie.
Like I quoted this one a lot more
Mm-hmm.
than even though I've only watched it once because it was just so funny.
Yeah.
And like predictable in some ways because they're just going down that really, really cheesy route where you wish you did.
Definitely.
They didn't, but it was still fun.
Yeah, so when it comes to this movie, I will say this. when I first saw this movie, I actually didn't like it. Because I was so used to Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, and I was like, the stylistic shift was so big for me that I was like, I kind of didn't like it at first, where I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. But as I gave it a second chance, and I kind of got more into it, I was like, you know what? I can look past the style change. I can look past a lot of the goofy comedy stuff, because like as I grew older, I kind of got more appreciative of it. So now I'm like, it's a great movie now. Like, I wouldn't say it's my favorite in the franchise, but it's a really fun movie to watch.
Damn, you for each and every one of these reviews, you're like, it's not my favorite in the franchise. It's not my favorite. Damn, which one is it?
I told you already, it's like a tie between the second one and something else that I'm discussing, so we'll get to that. So impatient.
Clearly, you haven't met me. Bet you haven't met me.
Yeah, but I there is a lot to love in this movie. It's got so much charm, so much like fun in it, like because you can tell that they were just having a blast making it.
For sure, I can definitely tell that.
Yeah, the tone is fun. The tone is interesting. The acting is pretty good. I mean, it's just Bruce Campbell doing his thing again. Like I can never get enough of that. So
yeah, and especially like all the cheesiness. I actually enjoyed it because of how cheesy it was, but you know, I also enjoyed the animation that came along with it, or just
like the stop motion.
Effects.
Oh yeah, practical effects were awesome in it. Yeah, for like I said, like when I didn't like it, I didn't realize at the time that it was kind of making fun of those types of movies too. So
really?
yeah, because I saw it when I was like 13 or 14, so I didn't really like think too much of it at the time.
Yeah.
But like watching it, as an adult, I got part of that appreciation came from my love of like really cheesy like B movies. So like
Clearly.
watching it, I'm like, oh, this is just Sam Raimi's attempt at like a cheesy like Jason and the Argonauts, Harryhausen or Brayhausen, whatever it's called, the stop motion guy. Like send up of those types of movies, and it definitely absolutely nails that.
Yeah, he does a really good job.
Yeah. But out of your score, let's do this, out of 10 headstones, what do you give this movie? That's gonna be our new basis, and instead of like stars or like out of 10, we're gonna be like out of 10 headstones on a graveyard.
I think a 7 because I actually enjoyed how cheesy it was, and I had a bit of trouble with wishing that it tied a little bit more into the Evil Dead, but what can you do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would also give it a 7. Overall, it's a well-made movie. Again, me being nitpicky, there's a lot of things that I noticed on this last watch through that I did. Especially, there's a lot of times when you can tell that Bruce Campbell isn't doing certain things as Ash. You can tell it's a stunt person. Like, it's like shot in a way where it's kind of obvious that it's a stunt person. Like, you can see the person's face, and you're like, that's not Bruce Campbell.
Yeah. I see that in a couple of things. I'm like, oh, that's not him. Or it's like the screen, too. The screen. Well, like you said, this was back in the 90s. So
yeah, that doesn't bother me much, because I'm like, it's just a product of the times. Like, that's excusable. But, like, being able to clearly see the stunt person, that shouldn't be excusable in anything.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I would still give it a 7 out of 10. It's still a very entertaining watch. I do... Going back to what you said about it, not necessarily tying back to the Evil Dead franchise or lore. It's
at least not too much.
Yeah, it's very good as an accessible movie for like somebody that's kind of like trying to get into the franchise. You could be like, if you want to start with something that isn't just like all over like in your face horror, start off with Army of Darkness. It explains a little bit of the story of what happens in the first two, but it's a little bit more of like a tame watch.
Yeah, before we, fully ram you into 2 and 1, but
especially into 1, because 1 that movie does not let up.
Nope, not at all.
Yeah. Now, so you said you would have liked to see a 4th movie with like Ash in the Post-Apocalypse?
Hell yeah, I love post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, that would have been really cool. I'm curious as to like what kind of direction that would have gone in terms of like how the Deadites would have looked, what other characters he would encounter and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure like Josh would just never get over Linda, so that's a given. So I feel like there is.
Here's the thing, though, that kind of bothered me in a little bit in Army of Darkness because he's supposed to still, this is all supposed to be happening across 2 nights, at least like Evil Dead 1 and 2. So like the pain of losing Linda is like still very much raw.
Yeah.
But in here he does, he almost immediately goes to Sheila.
Yeah.
So that was like, oh, like I
I
understand that
get-
you have to have your hit damsel in distress, but I'm like, man, I kind of feel bad that like he already kind of forgot about Linda.
Yeah. But what can you do? He like it's more like I just saw her more as a gateway to heal from Linda, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense, yeah.
But she was still a cool character overall though.
Yeah, Evil
She was a
Sheila
little
was really
cheesy.
cool to watch, yeah.
Oh yeah. Evil Sheila was like my favorite. I was like, damn.
And
Oh, sis.
I did really like the design of the evil version of Ash. I thought that was really cool how they made him look, and especially like his armor because it was made out of like bones and stuff. I was like, that's pretty cool. It's a nice design for him. But overall, that's really our thoughts on Army of Darkness.
Yeah, it was a
It's a
really
fun
fun
watch.
watch. It was
Yeah,
really fun.
it's a fun watch. If you want to get into kind of like a gateway horror movie, I would definitely recommend you watch Army of Darkness before jumping into like the first two Evil Deads because those are a little bit more towards
And
like the intense horror of it. Yeah.
yeah.
But outside of that, it is time for us to do our basic housekeeping. So, Vanya, we'll start with you.
You can find me on Twitter and YouTube at HHN Cultist, where I cover anything from makeup, theme parks, HHN related stuff, Universal, you name it, that kind of thing. Spooky season's almost over, so I do have one more video that I'm planning on bringing out before my account kind of temporarily changes to Krampus Cultist, where I'm going to be covering like
Yes.
Christmas stuff. But other than that, we do have 12 more days until Halloween, so go check me out, bro. But there's other interesting people on this podcast, such as my co-host. Where can we find you?
Yeah, so you can find me for my personals on Instagram at Yussef1220 and on Twitter at itbeyusef. Where I just mostly post on Twitter. I post on it or on Instagram every once in a while, but mostly on Twitter. And then for our podcast, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube as Sounds from the Grave. So there's plenty of ways to check us out. As well as our podcast, you can find us on pretty much any podcast platform available, whether that's Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or pretty much anywhere else you can listen to a podcast. And then we also have our email, soundsfromthegravepodcast@gmail.com. And you can always drop us a line if you want us to talk about something or if you want to show up in a podcast episode. Just let us know and we'll definitely put you in there.
Yeah, we love to talk to other people, so go do that. We love interacting with our fans or people that we just like in the horror community. So yeah.
Every single time we've had like a guest on the podcast, it's always been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So
it has been.
Oh yeah. So hopefully we get to have some more people in here. But for now, that is all we have. So we bid you a good day or good night whenever you're listening to this, and we hope you stay spooky.
Spooky.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.